What happens when a prince walks into a talk show thinking he owns the place, only to discover that his royal title means absolutely nothing when facing tough questions? Well, buckle up because today we're diving into one of the most explosive celebrity meltdowns ever caught on camera. Prince Harry's appearance on the Kelly Clarkson Show was supposed to be a routine promotional interview, but it turned into an absolute disaster that had security rushing to escort him out of the building. Before we get into this wild story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me what you think about celebrities who can't handle criticism. So picture this. Kelly Clarkson is sitting across from Prince Harry in her bright, cheerful studio. The cameras are rolling, the audience is excited, and everything seems perfectly normal. Kelly starts with her usual warm approach, asking about his recent projects and life in California. Harry seems relaxed, leaning back in his chair with that familiar smirk we've all seen before. So Harry, you've been in America for a few years now. How are you finding the adjustment from royal life to, well, regular celebrity life? Kelly asks with genuine curiosity. Harry chuckles and adjusts his position. Well, Kelly, I wouldn't exactly call it regular celebrity life. I mean, I'm still a prince. I still carry that responsibility and that heritage. It's not like I've abandoned who I am. Kelly nods politely. Of course, but there must be some differences. I mean, you're doing interviews, you're writing books, you're making deals with streaming platforms. That's pretty different from cutting ribbons and attending state dinners. Right, but the thing is, everything I do still has that royal touch. You know? People don't just see Harry, they see Prince Harry. That's never going to change, and frankly, I don't want it to. His tone is getting a bit defensive already, and Kelly hasn't even asked anything challenging yet. That's interesting because a lot of people have been wondering about that balance. How do you maintain your royal identity while also, being financially independent and building your own brand? Harry's expression shifts slightly. Well, I think that's a question that comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what being royal means. It's not a job you clock in and out of. It's who you are. It's in your blood. It's your birthright. Whether I'm living in a palace or a mansion in Montecito, I'm still a prince. Kelly maintains her professional smile, but you can see she's starting to pick up on his attitude. Sure, I understand that. But speaking of Montecito, you and Meghan have built quite a life there. How has marriage changed your perspective on your role and your future? And there it is, the first mention of Meghan. Harry's whole demeanor changes. Instantly, he sits up straighter, his jaw tightens, and his eyes narrow slightly. What do you mean by that exactly? He asks, his voice taking on an edge. Kelly looks a bit surprised by his reaction. Well, I just mean that marriage changes everyone, right? You're making decisions together now. You're building a family together. It must influence how you see your path forward. I see what you're getting at, Harry says, his voice getting colder. You're trying to suggest that my wife has somehow changed me or influenced my decisions about my family. That's exactly the kind of narrative that we've been fighting against. No, that's not what I'm saying at all, Kelly says quickly, holding up her hands. I'm just asking about marriage. In general, it's a normal question that I ask lots of guests. But you're not asking it in a vacuum, are you, Kelly? You're asking it because there's this constant narrative that Meghan is the one pulling the strings, that she's the one who wanted to leave the royal family, that she's the one making all these decisions. And frankly, I'm sick of it. The audience is starting to shift uncomfortably in their seats. This is not the direction anyone expected this interview to go. Kelly is clearly trying to steer things back to safer ground. Harry, I really wasn't implying anything like that. I was just asking about your personal growth and how marriage has affected you as a person. Right? But see, that's the problem. Harry continues, his voice rising slightly. Every single question about my marriage gets twisted into some kind of commentary about my wife. Why can't people just accept that I made my own choices? Why does everything have to be about Meghan manipulating me or controlling me? Kelly is clearly getting frustrated now, but she's trying to keep her professional composure. Because that's not what I asked, Harry. I asked how marriage has changed your perspective. That's a question I've asked dozens of married guests, and none of them have reacted like this. Oh, so now you're saying I'm overreacting. Harry's voice is getting louder, and you can see the production crew starting to look nervous. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The moment I defend my wife, or push back against these narratives, suddenly I'm the one with the problem. I'm not saying you're overreacting. I'm saying you're responding to something I didn't ask, Kelly says, her own voice getting a bit sharper. You're putting words in my mouth and then getting angry about those words that I never said. Harry leans forward aggressively. Listen, Kelly, I've been dealing with this for years. Every interview, every question, every comment somehow gets twisted back to paint my wife as the villain and me as the victim. I'm not playing that game anymore. But I'm not playing any game, Kelly responds, her patience clearly wearing thin. I asked you a straightforward question about marriage, and you immediately jumped to conclusions about my motives. That's not fair to me or to this conversation. Fair. Harry laughs bitterly. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that my wife gets blamed for every decision I make? Is it fair that people act like I'm some kind of puppet who can't think for himself? The tension in the studio is palpable now. The audience is completely silent, watching this train wreck unfold in real time. Kelly takes a deep breath, clearly trying to regain control of the situation. Harry, I think we're getting off track here. Why don't we talk about your upcoming projects instead? But Harry isn't ready to let it go. No, I think we should address this head on. You brought up my marriage, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about how every single media outlet, every talk show, every interviewer has this predetermined narrative about my wife being the problem. I don't have any predetermined narrative, Kelly says firmly. I asked you one question about how marriage has changed your perspective, and you've turned it into this whole thing about media narratives. That's on you, not on me. That's on me. Harry's voice is getting dangerously loud now. So it's my fault that I have to constantly defend my wife against attacks that never stop coming. What attacks? Kelly asks, her own voice rising. I didn't attack anyone. I asked you about marriage. That's it. Harry's face is getting red now, and you can see the veins starting to pop out on his forehead. What attacks? Are you kidding me right now? Have you not seen what the media has been saying about my wife for the past 5 years? Kelly throws her hands up in exasperation. Harry, I am not the media. I am not responsible for what other people have written or said. I am Kelly Clarkson, sitting here in my studio, asking you about your life. That's it. But you're part of the same system, Harry shoots back. You're all part of the same machine that tears people down and builds these narratives. You sit here, acting innocent, but you know exactly what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. Kelly's voice is getting sharper, and her famous warmth is completely gone now. What I'm doing is trying to have a normal conversation with a guest who apparently can't handle a simple question about marriage without having a complete meltdown. A meltdown. Harry stands up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. You think this is a meltdown? This is me finally standing up for myself and my family instead of just sitting there and taking it like I used to. The audience gasps audibly. Several people in the front row look like they want to leave, but they're trapped by the cameras and the chaos unfolding in front of them. Kelly remains seated, but her posture is rigid and her jaw is clenched. Sit down, Harry, Kelly says firmly. You're being ridiculous, and you're making everyone uncomfortable. I'm being ridiculous. Harry's voice cracks slightly. You invite me on your show, you ask loaded questions, and then when I defend myself, I'm the one being ridiculous? This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly the kind of treatment that drove us out of the country in the first place. Loaded questions? Kelly stands up now too, matching his energy. I asked you how marriage changed your perspective. That is literally the most basic question you can ask a married person. If that's loaded to you, then maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. Maybe I shouldn't be doing interviews. Harry laughs bitterly. Right, because I should just hide away and let people say whatever they want about my family. That's what you'd prefer, isn't it? Just let the machine keep running, keep feeding people these stories. What stories, Harry? Kelly's voice is getting louder now. What stories am I feeding people? I haven't said anything about your family except to ask how marriage has changed you. You're the one who brought up all this other stuff. I brought it up because I know where this is going, Harry says, pointing at her accusingly. It always goes the same way. Ask about marriage, then ask about the decision to leave, then ask about the interviews, then ask about the family drama. It's the same script every single time. Well, maybe if you didn't make everything about family drama, people wouldn't ask about it, Kelly snaps back. Maybe if you could have a normal conversation without immediately jumping to conclusions and getting defensive, interviews wouldn't be so difficult for you. Difficult for me. Harry's voice is reaching a dangerous pitch now. You think this is difficult for me? You have no idea what difficult is. Difficult is having your entire life scrutinized, having every decision questioned, having people you've never met tell you what you should and shouldn't do with your own life. Welcome to being famous, Harry, Kelly says sarcastically. That's literally what fame is. If you can't handle people asking you questions about your life, then maybe you shouldn't be a public figure. A public figure? Harry is practically shouting now. I'm not just a public figure. I'm a prince. I'm royalty. I was born into this. I didn't choose it, and I certainly didn't choose to have people like you questioning my every move. People like me? Kelly's voice drops to a dangerous whisper. What exactly do you mean by people like me, Harry? Harry realizes he's crossed a line, but instead of backing down, he doubles down. I mean people who make their living off of celebrity gossip and drama. People who pretend to be friendly and supportive, but are really just looking for their next headline. Celebrity gossip. Kelly's voice is incredulous now. I have won multiple Grammy Awards. I have been in this business for over 20 years, and I have built my career on talent, not gossip. How dare you reduce me to some kind of tabloid reporter? Oh, please. Harry waves his hand dismissively. You think having a talk show makes you above all that? You think asking me about my marriage is some kind of serious journalism? This is entertainment, Kelly, and you know it. You're absolutely right. This is entertainment, Kelly says, her voice dripping with sarcasm. And right now, you're entertaining everyone by showing them exactly what kind of person you really are. What kind of person I really am. Harry's voice is shaking with rage now. And what kind of person is that, Kelly? Please, enlighten me. The kind of person who can't handle criticism, who can't answer a simple question without throwing a tantrum, who thinks his title gives him the right to talk down to people. Kelly fires back. The kind of person who blames everyone else for his problems instead of taking responsibility for his own actions. Taking responsibility. Harry laughs harshly. You want to talk about taking responsibility? I left everything behind to protect my family. I gave up my royal duties, my military appointments, my entire life in England. If that's not taking responsibility, then what is? You left because you couldn't handle the pressure, Kelly says bluntly. You left because things got tough, and instead of dealing with it, you ran away. And now you're sitting here, in my studio, throwing another tantrum because I asked you one simple question. I didn't run away. Harry's voice is getting hoarse now from all the shouting. I made a strategic decision to protect my wife and children from the toxic environment that my own family was perpetuating. Your own family? Kelly raises an eyebrow. So now it's your family's fault too? Is there anyone in your life who isn't responsible for your problems except for you? My family chose the institution over me, Harry says, his voice breaking slightly. They chose their precious reputation over their own son and brother. They let the media tear my wife apart, and they did nothing to stop it. Or maybe, Kelly says quietly, they got tired of constantly having to clean up your messes. Maybe they got tired of you blaming everyone else for your problems. Maybe they got tired of walking on eggshells around you because you can't handle any kind of criticism or accountability. The silence that follows is deafening. Harry stares at Kelly, with his mouth slightly open, apparently shocked that someone has finally said what everyone has been thinking. The audience is completely silent, afraid to even breathe loudly. How dare you? Harry whispers, his voice barely audible. How dare you talk about my family like that? You don't know anything about what we went through. I know what everyone knows, Kelly says firmly. I know that you've spent the last few years blaming everyone but yourself for your problems. I know that you've thrown your family under the bus in multiple interviews and a book. And I know that you're sitting here right now, doing exactly the same thing to me that you've done to everyone else who has asked you a difficult question. This wasn't a difficult question, Harry says, his voice getting louder again. This was a setup. This was designed to make me look bad, to make me lose my temper, to give you your little moment of drama for your show. Nobody had to set you up, Harry, Kelly says with a sad smile. You did this all by yourself. Harry's face goes completely white, then immediately flushes red again. His hands are shaking, and for a moment, it looks like he might actually lose complete control. The camera operators are zooming in, capturing every micro-expression, every twitch of rage crossing his face. You have no idea what you're talking about, Harry says, his voice barely controlled. You sit here in your little bubble, judging people you don't know, making assumptions about situations you've never experienced. I'm not making assumptions, Kelly replies calmly, which only seems to infuriate Harry more. I'm observing your behavior right here, right now. And what I'm seeing is someone who can't handle being challenged, someone who immediately gets defensive and starts attacking people when they don't get the response they want. Attacking people? Harry's voice cracks again. You're the one who started attacking me. You're the one who brought up my family, who questioned my decisions, who suggested I'm some kind of failure who runs away from problems. I didn't suggest anything, Kelly says firmly. I asked you how marriage changed your perspective. Everything else came from you. All the defensiveness, all the anger, all the accusations, that's all you, Harry. That's not true, Harry says. But his voice lacks conviction now. You were leading me down a path. You were trying to get me to say something you could use against me. Use against you? Kelly laughs, but there's no humor in it. Harry, you're doing this to yourself. I'm not making you act this way. I'm not making you shout. I'm not making you throw accusations around. I'm not making you blame everyone else for your problems. That's all you. Stop saying that, Harry snaps. Stop acting like this is all my fault. You know exactly what you're doing, and you know exactly how the media works. You're just as much a part of this machine as everyone else. You know what, Harry? Kelly's voice is getting dangerously quiet now. You're right. I am part of the media. I do have a talk show. I do ask celebrities questions about their lives. But you know what I don't do? I don't sit here and let grown men throw tantrums in my studio because they can't handle basic questions about their lives. This isn't a tantrum, Harry says. But even as he says it, he's gesturing wildly with his hands. His voice is raised, and his face is contorted with anger. This is me standing up for myself and my family against people who want to tear us down. Nobody is trying to tear you down, Kelly says, her voice rising again. But you're doing a pretty good job of it yourself. You're sitting here on national television, showing everyone exactly why people have problems with you. You're proving every point that your critics have ever made. My critics. Harry's voice is getting shrill now. My critics don't know me. They don't know what I've been through. They don't know what my family has been through. They don't know the sacrifices we've made. What sacrifices, Harry? Kelly asks pointedly. Moving from one mansion to another? Going from having everything handed to you by the royal family to having everything handed to you by Netflix and Spotify? What exactly have you sacrificed? I sacrificed my relationship with my family, Harry says, his voice breaking. I sacrificed my home, my country, my military career, everything I knew and loved. You didn't sacrifice those things, Kelly says bluntly. You chose to give them up. There's a difference between sacrifice and choice, and you made a choice. Own it. I made a choice to protect my wife and children, Harry says desperately. That's what a man does. That's what a husband and father does. A husband and father also takes responsibility for his actions, Kelly fires back. A husband and father doesn't blame everyone else when things don't go his way. A husband and father doesn't throw public tantrums when someone asks him a simple question. Simple question? Harry's voice is reaching a breaking point now. Nothing about my life is simple. Nothing about being royal is simple. Nothing about dealing with the media is simple. Then maybe you should stop doing media, Kelly says with finality. If you can't handle questions, if you can't have conversations without losing your mind, if you can't be a professional guest, then maybe you should just stop doing interviews altogether. Maybe I should, Harry says, his voice suddenly quiet and dangerous. Maybe I should just stop trying to explain myself to people who will never understand. Good, Kelly says simply. Because honestly, Harry, this conversation has been exhausting. You've turned what should have been a pleasant interview into a nightmare. And I'm tired of trying to have a rational conversation with someone who clearly isn't interested in being rational. Rational? Harry's voice explodes again. You think you're being rational? You think attacking someone's character and questioning their integrity is rational? I think calling out bad behavior when I see it is rational, Kelly responds. I think refusing to enable someone's victim complex is rational. I think standing up for myself when someone comes into my studio and tries to bully me is rational. Bully you? Harry looks genuinely shocked. I'm not bullying anyone. I'm defending myself against your attacks. Harry, look around you, Kelly says, gesturing to the studio. Look at the audience. Look at the crew. Look at the cameras. You're the one who's been shouting. You're the one who's been making accusations. You're the one who's been getting aggressive. If anyone's being bullied here, it's me." Harry does look around, and for the first time, he seems to realize how his behavior looks to everyone else. The audience members are staring at him with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. The crew members are looking uncomfortable and anxious. Even the cameras seem to be focused on him like weapons. "This is ridiculous," Harry says, his voice suddenly deflated. "This whole thing is ridiculous. I came here to have a conversation, not to be ambushed." "Nobody ambushed you," Kelly says tiredly. "You ambushed yourself. You came in here with a chip on your shoulder, and the moment I asked you anything that wasn't complete praise, you lost it." "That's not what happened," Harry says weakly, but he's clearly running out of steam. "That's exactly what happened," Kelly says firmly. "And you know what? I think we're done here. I think this interview is over. You can't just end the interview," Harry says, a note of panic creeping into his voice. "I have things to promote. I have a message to get out." "Your message got out," Kelly says sarcastically. "Loud and clear. I think everyone here has learned everything they need to know about you." "This isn't fair," Harry says, and now he just sounds like a petulant child. "You're not giving me a chance to explain myself properly." "You've had plenty of chances," Kelly says, standing up and clearly signaling that the interview is over. "You've been explaining yourself for the past 20 minutes, and it hasn't been pretty." "I want to finish this interview," Harry says, but he's also standing up now, clearly agitated. "The interview is finished," Kelly says firmly. "Security will show you out." "Security?" Harry's voice goes up an octave. "You're calling security on me? I'm a prince. You can't just throw me out like some common criminal." "I can and I will," Kelly says, nodding to someone off camera. "Being a prince doesn't give you the right to come into my studio and act like this. Title or no title, you're just another guest who couldn't handle a simple interview." Two security guards appear at the edge of the stage, and Harry's eyes widen as he realizes this is really happening. "This is unbelievable," he mutters. "This is absolutely unbelievable." "What's unbelievable?" Kelly says as the guards approach. "Is that a grown man can't answer a question about marriage without having a complete breakdown. What's unbelievable is that someone who claims to be protecting his family spends all his time making them look bad by association." "You don't know what you're talking about," Harry says one last time, but his voice is defeated now. "I know exactly what I'm talking about," Kelly says as the security guards gently but firmly escort Harry toward the exit. And so does everyone who watched this train wreck. As Harry is led away, he turns back one more time. "This isn't over," he calls out. "People will see this for what it really was." "Yes, they will," Kelly says with a smile. "They'll see exactly what it was." And with that, Prince Harry disappears behind the curtain, leaving behind one of the most uncomfortable and revealing interviews in talk show history. Kelly turns back to her audience, takes a deep breath, and says simply, "Well, that was something." So there you have it, folks. What started as a routine promotional interview turned into a masterclass in how not to handle criticism, how not to be a guest, and how not to represent yourself in public. The whole thing was caught on camera, and it spread across social media faster than wildfire. What do you think about celebrities who can't handle basic questions about their lives? Drop a comment below and let me know, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild celebrity stories like this one.